Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. Thank you all for joining us. This is a meeting of the Cedar Rapids Community School District Board of Education. Today is Monday, March 10th. We'll start the meeting by the approval of the agenda, and this is a revised agenda. Alan, could you please read that?
Yeah, that the revised agenda of Monday, March 10, 2014 Board of Education meeting be approved as set forth, and that each item is considered ready for discussion and/or action.
In a second, please.
Second.
This is a roll call action.
Director Westerkamp.
Aye.
Director Humbles.
Aye.
Director Rosenthal.
Aye.
Director Anhalt.
Aye.
Director Witt. President Meisterling.
Aye, thank you. And next, I'll turn it over to Dave Benson for a superintendent report.
Good evening, everyone. Glad to see everybody here. We're joined tonight with a teacher and a team of students from Viola Gibson Elementary School, and the principal is here too, to share their experiences about their Green Team accomplishments. I'll turn this over to Val Dozal, Executive Director for Preschool through 8, for introductions.
Val, before you start,
Yes,
I think I'm going to go ahead and conduct a public hearing.
okay.
So we do have a public hearing regarding the water main easement at Lincoln School, and this is a time and place for comment from the public. And Laurel, have you received anything formally?
I have received nothing in writing, thank you.
Okay. Would anyone like to address the board regarding the easement at Lincoln? Seeing none, we will close that public hearing, and I'll turn that over to Val. Thank you.
Thank you. I am very pleased tonight that we have some students here from Viola Gibson, as well as a teacher and principal. I'm going to introduce Lisa Welsh. She is a second grade teacher at Viola Gibson. And these students are going to share with us some accomplishments and some goals that they have for their team and kind of the work they've done to make the recycling program and the pieces of Gibson really work and be very positive. So, thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting us. We're very excited and a little bit nervous to speak in front of all you adults. But Mrs. Cahoe asked if I would like to join or lead up the green team, and since being green is kind of near and dear to me, I said definitely yes. And we sent out an application to all second graders and fourth graders who would like to join our team. We reviewed them and we chose a group of, 12, or is there 12 of us? And I invited 4 just to come with me tonight. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and then tell you one reason they wanted to be on this green team.
I'm Megan Feldman, and one reason I wanted to be on the green team is to share all the ideas I had. I'm Ethan
Wait a
Head.
minute, talk right into the microphone.
I'm Ethan Head, and one of the reasons I wanted to be in the green team is because I like recycling.
There we go. All right, buddy.
I'm Caleb Ralston in second grade. I like to recycle. My name's Tava Fortune. I'm in second grade, and one reason I wanted to be on the green team was because I wanted to help save the earth.
So we picked our group, and then we meet once a month, and we've really had this be children-generated. What kinds of things do you think we need to be doing at Viola Gibson to make us more eco-friendly, I guess? And so some of the things that we've done so far is we came up with a goal, and we decided that instead of trying to reduce the trash and increase our recycling. I'm going to let each one of them share something else that our green team has accomplished.
One of our accomplishments was that we put buckets in the cafeteria so then stuff that can't go in the trash get recycled in certain bins.
I'll step in. There is a company called TerraCycle that if we send in our recycling to them, and we're actually getting some money back for the things that we're recycling. We're recycling cheese wrappers, and so far we've kept out of the landfill over 250 cheese wrappers. We're doing all of the Lunchable kits, and so far we've kept over 400 of those out of the landfill. Juice pouches, we have to do by weight, so I'm not exactly sure how many, but we've earned last year and this year $78 for those. And then we're also collecting the chip bags, and at this point, I've not mailed those in. You need 14 pounds of chip bags, which is a lot of chip bags, and they're sitting in my room, and we're filling those up. So those are just 4 of the things that we are actually recycling, and then we have a 5th tub for everything else that can be recycled but is not part of our actual money recycling program.
Another thing we've accomplished is writing notes to downtown about water usage.
And I'll step in again. Sorry, Caleb. We asked, there were 2 major things that we really thought that we needed in our water usage. I don't know, we get a report card once a month, and our water usage has continually been kind of high. So we sent a note to Mr. Klein-Smith and asked him, we have automatic flushers in our building, and those automatic flushers oftentimes, if you're there on the weekends or night, they flush by themselves. And they also tend to flush over and over and over. So one of the things that our green team came up with is that maybe we get rid of those and have manual flushers instead.
Make sure you pull that mic down.
Oh, sorry. And then that
One
we set goals. That we set our goals.
that we set goals. One goal is to have less trash. We have bins in the cafeteria for recycling.
We've also made posters and put them up around the school building. We've also been on what is our Gator Vision and talked to the kids about making sure our doors are shut when we're in the room so we're not heating the hallways, making sure our classroom lights are off if we're not in the classroom, or maybe if it's a bright sunny day, keeping the lights off and just using the natural sunlight. So again, these are all problems that we have talked about and come up with some different solutions for. Okay, I think, is there anything else? Oh, why are they proud to be on the green team? That will be our closing.
I'm proud to be on the green team because you get to help the earth in your own way, and it's really fun.
I'm proud to be in the green team because I have some really good ideas about encouraging recycling.
I am proud to be in the green team because it is fun to go green. I'm proud to be on the green team because it is fun.
Are there any questions or anything you're curious about that maybe we didn't cover?
Questions from the board or comments? We just love the work that you're doing at Viola Gibson and actually all the schools throughout our district. So thank you very much because you are saving the earth and you are recycling and you are saving money for our school district, which are all important goals, and we very much appreciate that. We also like that you're involved in this instead of it just happening or the teachers are telling you to do that. So stay involved, help the school continue to save money and discover different ways for recycling, and keep wearing those shirts and wear them proudly. Thank you
Can't
so
miss
much
this,
for
Kim.
coming.
Thank you.
Well, very good. Thank you, students, for being here. I'm very pleased to share with you this evening that Cedar Rapids Community School District was among the first group of Iowa school districts selected to launch the teacher leadership system as part of the reform initiatives passed last year by the legislature and signed into law by Governor Branstad. In fact, our district scored the highest among those applying for the funds. Teacher leadership systems will allow teachers to work in greater collaboration with colleagues and school administrators to improve instruction and thereby increasing student achievement. Mary Ellen Moss, Deputy Superintendent, led the team and will come forward and tell us a little bit more about this and thank some additional individuals.
Thank you, Dave. It is my absolute pleasure to be here tonight. I think a couple of weeks ago, I was standing here and sharing with you the awesome application that was submitted to the state. And one of the things that was a strength of that plan was the extensive contributions from many of our community members, teachers, our Teachers Association, students, parents, and it was just a very collegial effort in which we involved many, many stakeholders to write the best proposal in the state, apparently. Oh, sorry, I couldn't help but say that once again. And I'm just having trouble standing here and not like belting out a Yahoo for us. The district is very deserving of the teacher leadership compensation supplement. And I say that because our district has been rich with teacher leadership. And as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, one of the things that we really hope to do with the funds that are available to us now is to systematize that teacher leadership. Our teachers are very deserving and our district is very deserving. So it's been an exciting week since last Monday when we found out that we did indeed receive those funds. And what I'm going to talk about tonight is the fact what we've been doing in the past week. As we said we would in the application, we indicated that we were ready, we were poised in the Cedar Rapids School District to implement our teacher leadership plan. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of walk you through the website on our district homepage as far as what we are doing to communicate the Teacher Leadership and Compensation Supplement package to all of our teachers. This is for the teachers. This is 884 positions that we are going to be asking teachers to apply for. This is 44 different positions that will be utilized as teacher leadership positions in our district. So Mark is helping me, and he's gone ahead and pulled up the homepage. So if you go to our homepage and then go to District Resources, right here we added a link, Teacher Leadership, to the home page. So over there, if you just, teachers can go to that page, click on Teacher Leadership, and then what you get is just this page, and at the very top, it's kind of like the dashboard. It tells kind of some of those pertinent facts, 882 positions, that it was $5 million that was awarded. It gives you a email address if you have any questions about the Teacher Leadership and Compensation Package, or there's an email address where you can send an email, and it will go to our Teachers Association, myself, or our Human Resources Department so that we can assist teachers. If you scroll down a little bit, Mark, one of the things that you see is we created a video. Sue Clapp and I, the president of our Teachers Association, created a video that tells all the teachers how excited we are to have received the funds, as well as kind of a little bit of rationale for the theory of action from the state, and then how we plan to implement. So it gives a lot, it kind of gives the big 30,000-foot view of what the Teacher Leadership and Compensation Package is. Mark, if you'll scroll back up, there's several other things on the web page that if a teacher has any questions at all, there are links. So first of all is a grant application, and we don't need to go there. That's the actual document that you we shared with you last week. The next item is a frequently asked questions document. So if teachers have questions about how do I apply, who is eligible to apply, tell me about what the qualifications are. If I get a position this year and choose to go back to the classroom next year, what do I do? Those kinds of things are in that frequently asked questions, and we'll continue adding questions to that document as we move through and more questions come our way. Okay, Mark, you want to go back to the page? The next thing is the timeline for hiring, and so that teachers know of the 44 positions, when those positions will be hired, if it will be done at the district level or the building level, who the hiring person is, and then whether or not they need to complete the screening tool that is part of the application process. The next thing is the job descriptions by level. So if I'm a teacher and I decide that I want to apply for the teacher leadership program facilitator, There's a index along the side. You can click on that, and then each job description is identified and included in this link. And so there's 44 different positions. It tells you how many positions there will be, how much training will be included, what the compensation will be, what the job requirements are, and then the essential job elements as well. So we think that that's very, very clear to our teachers as well. The next thing is a screening tool. Part of the guidelines for the teacher compensation supplement, you want to scroll down a little bit and we'll just look at those questions. There you go. Part of is that we have a rigorous selection process. And that rigorous selection process, one of the components of that is a screening tool that we will use. The other parts include interviews. They include application of knowledge for an activity, and they include a writing component. So it might be a little bit more rigorous than other interviews that we've done in the past. Then the next item is, I'm going to have you go to the bottom one. There's the instructions for how to apply. That's just step-by-step instructions. But then there's the link to our school stream, and all of the positions in the teacher leadership and compensation supplement are actually in a separate section of our school stream. And that's how people apply for positions in our district. Of course, we're accepting applications only from internal candidates. So we've been busy. We are excited. We are, like I said, we'd hit the ground running, and we did. And I can't thank our Human Resources Department enough. They got all those postings up within a week. Our technology for linking all that information to the website, on our TV video for filming Sue and I when we were so excited about getting the funds and getting that out to teachers. So administrators were provided all of this information at meetings. They're taking it back to the buildings to share with teachers. So that's kind of where we are, and we've gotten some emails that we've been able to answer those questions, and we think we're poised to get our hiring done in the months of April and May.
Outstanding. And do you have any of those participants in the room tonight that helped write that grant?
Stand up if you help.
Would you all stand up if you helped in that effort? Thank you. We're so proud of our district in so many ways, and this would be another demonstration of all the good things that we do. Being number one in the state for some activities is not new to us. We have had number one placements before, but this one came at an important time, and we're just thrilled. And Mary Ellen, have you received any teacher feedback since all of this information has come forward?
Received a lot of thanks for the work that was done on the application, and I think we've also received some really great questions that will help us as we move forward. So, yeah, very positive feedback all around.
Good. Thank you so much. Okay, Dave?
Yep, we're very pleased. In other good news, we announced the second round of innovative learning projects last week. This is an opportunity for staff to receive technology-related resources to create learning environments. The first round of awards were presented last fall. These projects involve the use of such technologies as iPads, iPad minis, tablets, Surface Pros. Funding for the technology comes from silo dollars, and you can find details about the second round of projects as well as some of the examples of the first round projects on the district website. This is implementation of the board-approved technology plan that we're beginning to implement this year. Next, a team of students from Jefferson High School took first place in the academic decathlon state contest this last weekend. Jefferson's team qualified to represent the state of Iowa in the 33rd National Academic National Competition in Honolulu, Hawaii on April 24th through 26th.
Do they need some extra chaperones?
I've already had the chaperones filled up. Members of the Jefferson team claimed 39 of a possible 90 individual medals. Our district was represented well among the top 10 teams. Jefferson was first, Kennedy finished third, and Washington finished ninth. Congratulations to all of the students and sponsors. This is always a great activity. Friday, March 7th was a very exciting day here at the ELSC. For the first time, we hosted the registration for preschool, AK, alternate kindergarten, and kindergarten in one location for all of our schools. It was a tremendous success. We had some 1,296 children register for the 14-15 school year on that day. Of course, many of the young children were accompanied by their parents, and it was exciting to see. We have some pictures of the day up. The single registration site also allowed us to have availability through the day for information from transportation, food service and nutrition, and health services. It was a great day. Any parent who missed the event can come up and register during business hours. And it was, I was down a couple of times, and it was really exciting to see. So that's an example of the use of our new facility, and we hope that we can debrief that activity and make it go even better next year. Finally, tonight, I am pleased to introduce our monthly Alumni Spotlight feature. We have a rich and diverse group of alumni, and we're proud to applaud their success.
It's a pleasure to spotlight the career of District alum Brenda Fries. A 1988 graduate of Cedar Rapids, Washington High School, Brenda has served as a head coach of the University of Maryland women's basketball team, the Terrapins, since 2002. Brenda began her basketball career on the courts at Washington, where she was a member of the 1988 state championship team. While in high school, Brenda was also a member of the Warrior volleyball team for 4 years, as well as the track and softball teams for 1 year. Basketball, however, was always her primary focus. She was a 4-year basketball letter winner, an honorable mention All-American and Iowa State champion in 1988, and an All-State and All-Metro player from 1986 to 1988. Following high school, she received an athletic scholarship to attend the University of Arizona. While out with an injury, she stepped up as a volunteer assistant coach at a nearby community college. She was immediately comfortable. I knew right away that I loved coaching and would pursue it, Brenda told us. Though she was hired right out of college for an entry-level spot at Kent State, Brenda also worked at Little Caesars Pizza, back then to supplement her income. After all, working hard has always been in her nature. She eventually moved up into the job of full-time assistant at Kent State before Iowa State University hired her as an assistant coach. Brenda says, "I had a great experience at Iowa State, and there I got my big break, getting hired as a head coach at Ball State University." Her first game as head coach at Ball State was an upset win against the University of Minnesota. 2 years later, Minnesota hired her as their own head coach. During that tenure, Brenda was named the Big Ten and National Coach of the Year. And then Maryland came along. The Maryland Terrapins won the national championship at Maryland in 2006 and won ACC titles in 2009 and 2012. Fries picked up her 300th win at Maryland on February 23, 2014. Brenda fondly recalls high school and is especially proud of the people she shared the experience with. As Brenda says, whether they were teachers, mentors, friends, or classmates, the Midwest values and mentality is something special. People are really genuine, and you don't have to question their motives as much. Brenda credits her Midwest values as one of her greatest assets. She is quick to remind others that work ethic, honesty, and integrity can take you a long way, and she's certainly proven it's true. Brenda and her husband, Mark Thomas, are the parents of 2 sons. They make it a point to visit Iowa frequently to spend time with family. According to Brenda, we hope the boys grow up with a little bit of Iowa in them. We hope so too. Congratulations to District alum Brenda Fries on her terrific career.
What a talent. Thank you, Gary. That was very exciting.
It was a pleasure.
Yep, it is a pleasure to do that. Okay, are you finished with yours? Okay, thank you, Dave. Next, I'm going to ask for any board reports. Yes.
Well, I want to report on a couple of my building visits. One was to an elementary school to Cleveland, and just real quickly, walking into a building, a school building, I can tell very quickly the climate of the building, and it didn't take me long to know that it was certainly a place where learning was taking place. You can tell the teachers and the students were engaged and really doing great work. It was a great visit. The second one was to this building, the ELSC, and I think we all had seen the building during the progress of it being built and from the ground up, but it was my first time to really come back and visit when it was in action, when it was people were working, and so.
To accompany you.
Yeah, it doesn't need background music. Although, it might help, Justin, if you want. It was great to walk through the departments and talk with the personnel and to get their input on how things were going, and just a lot of positive comments. The building is just serving exactly what we had hoped it would, and maybe even more. And I think it's also important to point out that because of the efficiency, the construction, very few problems, very few follow-up orders. It was built very well. And just the energy, particularly going through this last winter, what we've saved through the geothermal process, that alone will pay for the building in a third of its lifespan easily. During that meeting, I also stopped down at the preschool kindergarten, and it was that's what the business is all about. It's to see the kids and the parents. But what really struck me as I was looking around the room, the diversity of the kids and the parents, and I was walking along some of the tables, and we had instructions in Swahili, we had them in English, we had them in Spanish. And as I looked through across the room, it certainly, I think all of those categories and more were covered. It was really a delight and a compliment to the staff and all of those that put that together and made it for a very successful day. It's always the first impression, I think, that it's so important, and I'm sure, well, I talked with some of the parents as they were exiting, and they had nothing but positive things to say, so it was a real plus.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Any other reports from the board? Keith?
I've been working the last 2 weekends on getting a new CEO for the Iowa Association of School Boards. An announcement will soon be coming out on that person, and we look forward. But I think one of the most inspiring things is all the positive comments that have been made on the direction of the Iowa Association and the strength that's coming from that organization. So it was a grueling, long task, but I think we're there.
Good applicant pool?
We did. We had 8 people apply. We got it down to 5, and then down to 2, and as I say, it's in the final stages right now. I'm not sure they've announced the person yet, but we'll look forward to working with that person and dedication of taking Iowa forward.
Thank you for that, and thank you for serving on that board. It's a big-time commitment, so we appreciate your efforts. A couple of things that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention. I don't know if you've seen Points of Pride. So this is something, if you carry nothing else in your portfolio as you visit with folks, this would be one of those items that you would carry. And these are all the good things that we're doing in our district. I think we have a tendency to forget about the good work or only remember a couple of those items. So it's good to have this. Marcia, thank you very much. I really like the format. We also have it on a larger sheet, and on the back of this one shows our tax levy rate in comparison to the other UEN schools. So I think it's always important to remind our taxpayers that we are prudent with our tax rate and certainly our budget, which we will be talking about tonight.
Do the realtors have this?
And do the realtors have this?
Perfect.
And so Marcia's response was yes, that she had sent it to all 4 main realty offices in the community, so hopefully they'll share that with their constituent groups as well. Thank you. Okay, next is next is the communications, delegations, and petitions. I do have several requests. We'll start with Lawrence Winkowski. And please state your name and address for the record. And just a reminder, those that are addressing our board, this is not a place or time for dialogue, but it's a time for us to receive comments.
Lawrence Winklowski, 4234 Morel Road, Northeast. First, last week you talked about the school calendar and that. But one thing that wasn't discussed is the fact that June 9th through 13th, the teachers or the staff was scheduled to work, and now there's snow makeup days. So what happens with, does the staff have to make those days up, or is it just, or exactly what happens with those days? That was something that wasn't commented on at all. Second has to do with the funding we just received. I want to thank everybody who worked on it to bring more money into our school district. That's, I think, very important in that. And, but with that, I had a couple questions. One of them had to do with, does that mean that there's going to be no staff reductions? Because I know there was some talk about that, and I wasn't sure. I would like to assume it means that there will not be, but I assume nothing. And that I just can hope there isn't. The other thing is that a couple meetings ago, a comment or a question was asked about people with this new process of teachers being removed from the school board, from their classrooms. And one of the things I'm not clear, I wasn't totally clear, or didn't totally understand the answer to the question. Partly because I understand how you can take a teacher out of a classroom, like say a high school teacher. They're coaching and they're not in their fifth period class every day, and that, which makes sense, and I have no problem with that. But if you're starting to take, we'll say, every other Thursday, a elementary school teacher out of their classroom for 1 or 2 hours, I have a real issue with that, because that sort of is directly, something the community doesn't want is less interaction time. One of the things that happens with a lot of these meetings, they're always scheduled same time, like 12 to 1 every day, or every other week or something like that. They should be one day or 1 week it's 9 to 10. The next time it should be 10 to 11. So you're not always hurting the same class or the same subject. So at least the teacher interface time with the students will be longer. And the other thing is, do we ever have electronic meetings? And for some of these things, does everybody have to show up to the ELSC, or are there some meetings that can be held electronically, or sometimes, maybe not every meeting's electronic, but, every other meeting or something like that? Because a lot of the meetings with distributing the information, it would be helpful. It would save us on money of paying transportation costs, and also would less time the teachers would miss the school, their classroom. And that, so, that sort of pretty much covers all the questions I have. One thing is, with this forum, and people asking questions, is there any reason why the people sitting at the front table here cannot come up and comment or ask questions, or that? As I know the board cannot, but they're part of the public, and I think that would be helpful. So, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lawrence. Next, I have Reverend Doyle Landry. Sorry, I hesitated.
Good evening. A single white mother embraced education for her biracial son, and as a result, you have the sitting President of the United States. As a United States Marine Corps veteran who is a co-college alumnus with honors, who chose to end his journalism career to live in the Wellington Heights community 22 years ago, There is an obvious problem that no one addressed with truth, and it is important because of the possibility of a long, hot, bloody summer. It is important that, and thank you very much for your service as directors in terms of charting a clear course for education, because sometimes people confuse facts with fiction. And so it's obvious by looking at your test scores, it's obvious by looking at your planning, it's obvious by looking at careful detail to individual family development of what choices you're making to chart a clear course for Cedar Rapids. What gets in the way are parents who don't understand that parenting is at least an 18-year commitment of which they are responsible for the choices that they have created. Sometimes we allow race to get in the way because we're afraid to address the obvious. The sitting president of the United States addressed that about a week and a half ago with his program, My Brother's Keeper. It is my hope that Cedar Rapids can receive whatever funding comes from My Brother's Keeper to address African American boys, because I don't really know your Latino population yet, and my sons are biracial. Their mother was Mexican. I'm a widow due to breast cancer. It is important that we look at what is staring us directly in the face with regard to young people who do not value education, and important to have that honest discussion as to accountability versus race. I say that because your statistics that point to, as highlighted 1 year ago in the Gazette, about low African American achievement, and being honest, where does that responsibility lie? Does it lie with who's the parent or who is the supporter of the parent? I say that with grief. As clergy, in Chicago, have buried honor students who didn't deserve to die. And I will never forget the looks on their mothers' faces as they were lowering their children into caskets. I say that because here, seeing things with clear eyes, again, as a Marine Corps veteran, watching students enter Cedar Rapids Public Schools not prepared to value education, and that is just a simple observation. It is of no fault of the Cedar Rapids Community School District as a result to children being prepared at the home. If you don't believe me, look at your library. Leave here, go to your library, and see who's in the library at night and on the weekends. Parents who are choosing to prepare their children for a life ahead. Readers are leaders. So again, if we can stress accountability over race, I, as an African American, college degreed, United States Marine Corps veteran, can see clearly that there needs to be accountability stressed over race, and then possibly then your statistics can change with regard to African American male achievement in the Cedar Rapids Community School District. Blue folders, because you learn as an educator, separate information, are two innovative programs that agencies, meaning the Cedar Rapids Police Department and Cedar Rapids business community, aim to think about implementing as it relates to family development, and there's a packet for each of you. The red folder have some background information as to not only what I do, but also journalists who have written on similar things that can be achieved here. And then finally, as a close, the Chicago Defender, an award-winning national publication that helped families from the South migrate to the North. Every year, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to focus on Hadiya Pendleton, who didn't deserve to die, and her killing had nothing to do with white people. She was an honor student. Every year, the Chicago Defender promotes men and women of excellence doing outstanding things in the community to support family development. Some of those men have visited Cedar Rapids to be able to be of support to ongoing family development. One of those men, honored this past January, is in the audience, Tommy Tolliver Jr.
Excuse me, Reverend Lander, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. You can leave your materials with Laurel Day, and she will make sure that all of us get a copy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Right here. And next is Sue Clapp.
Thank you. Sue Clapp, 2242 Evergreen Street Northeast, Cedar Rapids. This evening, I wanted to share with you another event in which several of our paraeducators participated. The National Education Association hosted a conference for education support professionals during this past weekend entitled Ensuring Student and School Success. Some of the sessions focused on school safety and emergency management, bullying, Common Core standards, building respect for education support professionals, cyber safety, and strategies for co-teaching or working with a classroom teacher. Several of the speakers noted the importance of paraeducators being well-trained since they are on the front lines and can be the ones to make the positive impacts on students moving away from gangs or other negative situations. We were able to send 6 of our district paraprofessionals with funding from the Cedar Rapids Education Association and the Iowa State Education Association. Participants were Candy Bakeris, Patricia Havlick, Dina Jansen, Janet Schmidt, Denise Wagner-Nipper, and Ann Hagee, our Iowa Education Support Professional of the Year. I also wanted to commend the district for applying for and receiving the Teacher Leadership and Compensation Supplemental Grant. The announcement last Monday made for a great day for our teaching profession. We had a lot of dancing and celebrating here. It was very uplifting to be one of the 39 districts in the state to receive this funding in its first year, and of course to receive that highest score. The initial hard work paid off, and now we will be able to provide our highly effective teachers more opportunities to grow, refine their skills, and share their expertise as leaders in our district. I especially want to thank Mary Ellen Mosk for leading the effort. She emphasized the importance of gathering input from all stakeholders and especially ensured teacher input throughout the process. Congratulations to everyone on a collaborative and thorough process. CREA leadership looks forward to assisting and making the program everything it was intended to be, and as we do believe our teacher leadership system will benefit both the teachers and our students.
Thank you. Moving into consent agenda, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, this is anything for open for discussion and/or questions? Seeing none, this is a roll call action due to the personnel report.
Director Humbles? Aye. Director Rosenthal?
Aye.
Director Anhalt?
Aye.
Director Witt?
Aye.
Director Westerkamp?
Aye.
President Meisterling?
Aye. And next, I'll turn this over to Mary Ellen, Val, and Trace to talk about an update on SINA and the PLA data-driven instruction.
Thank you, President Meisterling. It's exciting. I'm going to start tonight to talk a little bit about our SINA overview. We kind of did a little bit of this at our retreat in the fall. This is to update you on some of the work that's been done. We will really know the results of this work when we go through our Iowa assessments here in just a few short weeks. So this is a short overview. Again, we are, let's see. As we move forward, one of the things that I want you to know, there is a difference between SINA and DINA. DINA means District in Need of Assistance. SINA means School in Need of Assistance. We're going to talk about the School in Need of Assistance today. And in order to be identified as a School in Need of Assistance, it requires that you were not successful meeting our annual adequate yearly progress. And so what happens is that then schools go on lists for a year. They first go on a watch list, then they go on to what we call SINA 1, SINA 2, SINA 3, and SINA 4, and beyond. And because we have 8 schools that are at SINA 4 and beyond, we needed to make some changes. I'm just going to review for you quickly some of the data that we have to look at. This is the trajectory that this state puts forward, and this is on our IO assessments. And if you read this carefully, you'll see that in 2014, which is our current year, we need to be at 100%. There are several formulas, actually 9 of them, that the state uses to determine adequate yearly progress. It's also looking at our percentage of growth, and so there's several formulas for that will put a school maybe in delay, even if they're not at that 100% proficient. So that would be our reading, and here is our math. And tonight, because we are SINA 4 and beyond, there's some pieces that we had to put in place. We determined that we were going to go through a turnaround process, which included bringing in some turnaround experts. And we have brought in Susan Ledick and Doreen Marvin to provide to these 8 buildings, as well as the district, some support on how do we move forward. They put in front of us some recommendations. They said we need to focus on DDI, which is data-driven instruction, and then we also need to focus on SC, which is school culture. So those are the 2 pieces that helped us kind of move forward our thinking as we looked at data and as we looked at our buildings. Then they also said, we're going to do a 6-week implementation cycle, and that happens every 6 weeks. And we determine focus for each building, and along with that, then the principals and the coaches are going in and doing observations and co-planning sessions. We also have established, and I just came from that a little bit ago, a SINA PLC for our principals, and our coaches have joined us as well. We have a lot of learning that happens in that about processes. We're using a book called Leverage Leadership to help us think about the work that we're doing, as well as move forward with some of the strategies that we hear from Susan and Doreen. And then we really want to kind of strengthen that assessment alignment and the use of that. So tonight, I am excited to invite 3 people up from Grant. We have a principal perspective, and Monica Fry is going to share that, as well as we have a coach perspective from Kathleen Ziegler, and a teacher perspective from Lisa Sherrard, and they're going to share the process with you.
Good evening. My name is Monica Fry, and I'm principal at Grant Elementary School. And tonight I'm here to talk about my perspective as an instructional leader and kind of the process that we've gone through. I'm going to talk specifically about the 6-week improvement cycle that Val had mentioned before. One of the goals and the main goals that I have focused on this year, that I have really seen one of the biggest benefits in this whole process, is the alignment of our school improvement plan. The work that we have done with what we call our 6-week improvement cycle is directly correlated to our school improvement plan. Our early work this year took a look at our student learning targets, but not only looking at do our teachers know the student learning targets, but do our students specifically know what goals they have in place throughout the whole year. Like Val showed those charts up on the screen. Do our students know what they have in store for them to meet throughout this school year? So that has really been a focus and a nice correlation between what we're doing with our 6-week cycle and our school improvement plan. Next, it has provided a direct focus on our professional development. As we move into new 6-week cycles throughout the school year, much of the discussion began with our building leadership team and has provided a specific focus on our building professional development. An example would be recently we had a professional development day, and our teachers were collaborating together and able to dig deeper into some of our reading data. They analyzed that data and took a look at, okay, where are we and what do we need to do to move our students forward in our plan, and again, in that trajectory to move our students up. Another benefit that we have is it guides teacher observations and those co-planning discussions. I can't tell you how rich some of our co-planning discussions have been throughout this school year. I have increased opportunities to work with teachers to collect that data, look at data, and use formative assessments to provide feedback and guidance that will improve instruction in each of our classrooms. One last thing that really has been a benefit to me being an instructional leader, it has been an increased awareness of student learning in the classroom. I'm in classrooms every day, every week. I have a great understanding of what is going on in each of those classrooms, and specifically with each of the students that we want to have improve in our school. Thank you. And next I would like to have, my teammates are going to join me, and Kathleen Ziegler is our instructional coach at Grant School.
Well, as we heard, we began a process this year in our SINA 4 and beyond schools of doing weekly observations of all of our classrooms. So what that means at Grant is that Monica, our principal, or I go into each teacher's classroom for about 15 minutes once a week. And then following that observation, we sit down with the teacher for a co-planning session, which range, really, they vary from about 15 minutes to about 40 minutes is about what mine range. Why the focus on this work and why is it so important? Hundreds of studies have shown that the teacher is the single most important factor in raising student achievement. So research is clear. It's the teacher. So it is what the teacher knows and can do that is the determining factor in raising our student achievement. So when we think about the number of opportunities we have then to observe our teachers and then to co-plan with our teachers and provide them feedback, what's happening this year in our schools is that our teachers will be sitting down with their instructional coach or their administrator and receiving feedback on their practice as a teacher 30 or more times. That's more than a 20-year veteran teacher typically receives. Being one in front of you, I can vouch for that even in our own district. So we're not able only to coach what the teachers need, but what the students in his or her classroom need in that particular week or in that particular unit of study. So let me give you some examples about some things going on just this week at Grant in some of my co-planning sessions. In one classroom, we have a teacher working on increased engagement of all students. Another teacher is working to increase the number of higher order questions that she is asking during her instruction. Another teacher is refining routines in order to become more efficient. Why is that important? It increases instructional time available. Another teacher has targeted a specific group of students that is not making the progress she would like to see these students make in reading, so she is engaged in some professional learning of her own in order to try out a new strategy that may reach these students better. So as teachers set goals and co-plan with the coach or the principal each week, our teachers are engaged in differentiated, job-embedded, meaningful professional learning, and our instructional practices are reflected upon and refined. And I might even add as a little aside too, as being one of the first instructional coaches that started many years ago now, we continue to sort of refine that role. And this, I think, would be the first year that I, in that practice of instructional coach and feedback giver, have received some feedback on my practice too. So refining my practice as I work with teachers to refine theirs with the ultimate goal of increased student learning. Thank you. And Lisa is one of our wonderful teachers at Grant, and she's going to share with you a teacher perspective.
I was not any of those things she just said, but she didn't come to my room this week.
She's on her rotation this time.
So if you notice, everyone had something in front of them but me, because I spent last night making 2 wonderful slides with beautiful pictures, sent it to myself, and it didn't work. So this morning I get there, it's not attached, so I have to redo it and send it to my principal, who says, sorry, when I get here, your slides aren't going to be shown. So I'll give you some visuals. I only had 2 slides, but the first slide, I teach 5th grade. So anyway, the first slide had a person on a stationary bike. So imagine pedaling a stationary bike. I've taught in the district 9-ish years. This is my 16th overall, but that just makes me sound old. Anyway, so imagine being on a stationary bike. And for the past few years, that's kind of what it felt like a little bit teaching. You have a backpack every year. You come to school, and as a teacher, they throw in SLEs. They throw in PBIS. They throw in every acronym you can imagine. So for all of you who are confused, I was confused the first 3 years. So, you're pedaling on this bike, and you're pedaling, and you feel like you're working really hard. Everyone's working hard, and you're not going really anywhere. SINA 1, SINA 2. I've been through all SINAs. And so every year, they put more in your backpack, but you still feel like you're on the bike. This year, I feel like the picture was cute. It was like Dorothy with a little basket with Toto in it. And you're actually on your bike, and you're moving. And maybe just a little bit, and there's lots of hills and valleys, but I'm the type of teacher who, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty decent. And so people would come in, principals would come in, and it'd be the same kind of thing. Oh, good job, you're doing great, keep it up. Well, I'd really like some feedback, like tell me something I can improve. And then again, it was once a year. Well, I'm not going to remember that every day that I teach. But what's been nice is to have someone come in. I mean, you have to be willing to open yourself up to that, to have someone to come in and watch you teach and then accept their feedback. And that's what's great about Grant. The teachers and staff accept that. Not all teachers do, but so then when they come in and do that, and then you have that regularly, it's like one of those personal trainers who sits there and I've never paid for one, but I want to someday. And they're there and they like push you and they know your limits and they know what they can push and they know you're going to have bad days and good days and you're not going to be perfect. And that's kind of what it's like. So it's having little Toto in your basket and they're kind of looking out for you and they're with you the whole way. So I think the results, at least right now, you know, we don't have end of the year results, but the teachers feel more supported, that their work is maybe making a bigger difference and maybe we can get a little further towards our goal for SINA. So thank you.
I share with this that, you know, our turnaround experts have said that it takes 2 to 3 years to really make a change. So we are hopeful that we will see a change with our results this year based on the work and the feedback and the commitment that we've seen with these 8 buildings. This is also a model that we're using as we think about the teacher leadership and compensation, the role of the instructional design strategist, which is the new title of the coach role. So we're hoping to use some of this observation and code planning and feedback really as a benefit to the teachers as they do their work. So, questions?
Questions or comments from the board?
I got one.
Alan?
Of course, other people might have the same question. What's curious is what changed that bike, that stationary bike? What caused that to change in 1 year? What was the genesis of that?
Really, it takes a long time to develop a culture in a building. For us, we're lucky. I came from Wilson, so I was at Wilson with Val, and we hire good people, and then the willingness to know when to jump off the stationary bike. So we were at that point, we were ready. But to have good leaders who come in and, you know, imagine being watched doing your job, and you've done it a long time, and they haven't. And, I mean, she's good. Anyway, they're both good. But, you know, it's like opening yourself up and being willing to all collaborate on the same goal. So, like anything, if you don't work together, and I think it's just, you feel so isolated as a teacher, so every day you're in the room and you're like, okay, I think I'm doing a good job, and test scores come back, oh, you know, what did I do? Like, someone come tell me so I can improve. And it's just little things that you don't see yourself doing.
Sure.
So
that's great. Thank you.
Gary?
A couple of things. Lisa, you didn't need the slides. No, you really didn't. And, you know, it's like reading a book sometimes, that it's the descriptive words that really forces you to get the imagery in your description. I had a vivid picture of you sitting on that bike going nowhere. So a great job. The other is, I think, as was mentioned, the tie into the teacher leadership. You know, we're seeing this for a small segment, but I really believe that this is what we're looking for from a state level, of every teacher being able to have that and really being able to move the profession forward. And I have to say, I'm so glad that we as a district, because I think we have it right. I think we have the personnel, I think we have the things in place, the collaboration, that we can show the state that this is how to do it, and we'll make it work. So, great presentation. Congratulations for your work.
Other comments? I have just a few questions, if you would. So, how do you define success? Is it strictly a test score? What's the definition?
it's the light bulb.
Okay. Okay. Have you set individual goals for each of our students in our classrooms? So that you're laser focused on helping that student achieve?
We're getting really close.
Okay.
We try whenever we get an assessment back, to really look at it and see what kids are not making it and why. So how she said in the reading test we had, it was an F&P test, which means more letters, but where were the kids tripping up? And our kids are getting tripped up on questions beyond the text. So we really are trying to focus that in guided reading, in the whole group reading. If I had a kid and, you know, you came up to them and said, what are you trying to work on? They could probably give you a general thing, and they probably know what they need to work on. I think we could get better in that aspect of every kid knowing every goal for themselves. But we know, like, I know what the kid needs to work on, but I think that piece is where we're kind of heading.
Okay, and then how are we engaging parents or family members in this process?
Well, I'm unique because this year in 5th grade, we started home visits.
Okay.
And so usually that's a preschool childcare thing. And so I just found out about it and I thought, why not? And parents were very receptive. The relationship you build going to a home is entirely different. So conferences, it felt like we were on almost level playing field. The parents respected us because we went in there and we were able, I mean, I've talked to parents more this year than other years. As far as other teachers, I mean, we're trying to communicate it the best we can through conferences and newsletters. I mean, you can't do that, you know, kids' scores. We've had some teachers pull in parent nights for individual, just around academics. So the parents come in, see where their, 2nd grade I think did that, see where their scores are. Here's something to help so that you can get your kid where they need to be from where they're at.
I think that's a critical component. You can't do it by yourself. We've been trying that for years and not achieving the level of success that we want to. So I really encourage you to continue to reach out to parents and get that help and send them materials that they can use with their students to help in that regard as well. And then the only other comment I want to say is if you talk about this being a 3-year process, we have to have significant progress each and every year. We can't at the end of 3 years go, you know what, that didn't work. So I just want to emphasize that. I mean, it's our responsibility up here to make sure we have policies in place and that we provide adequate funding for these programs, but they have to be successful and they have to demonstrate success for our students. This is a model teacher that we have up here. Are all the other teachers as engaged at this level as she is?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have phenomenal staff at Grant. I think that what makes us unique, and others can vouch too, our culture is very phenomenal at Grant. The teachers come ready to learn. Students come ready to learn. We ask them when they enter the door, what are you going to do today at school? And hopefully they can respond, I'm ready to learn. We just have a phenomenal staff, and that's really ready to jump on board to make changes if we need to make changes, and they're right where with us. And one additional comment that I wanted to make about getting families, one thing that I'm quite proud of is we're not quite at 100% yet, but we are 98% attendance rate with our recent conferences. And for us, that's really good. And we do have a couple yet that we're not stopping at 98%. We want that 100%. And our staff is willing to get there with us, so we have a wonderful staff.
You probably have a wonderful staff and culture because of you. So thank you for your work. Thank
you.
all 3 of you. Yes, please.
One of the things I would add too, just about the work we're doing this year, is in previous years, in the role of instructional coach, if teachers wanted to work with me, they would say, "Hey, Kathleen, I really want to work on insert whatever that would be," and those teachers were very engaged in reflective practice or professional learning, but we didn't. In my work or in the principal's work, we didn't always have that sustained effort with all teachers every week over time. And so that is really what I think the power of this model is. Is every teacher engaged in the work? Yes. Is every teacher as reflective as Lisa today? Maybe not. Do we think we can get every teacher to become more reflective and refine their practice more than ever? You bet. So I think it's that it is not sort of voluntary anymore. Everybody will work on refining their practice in a really focused way during our 6-week cycle, but also then individually, what do teachers need or what do classrooms need in order to move student achievement forward? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes good sense. And you know what? You provide a safe environment or it wouldn't work. So thank you all very much for coming tonight. We appreciate the information. Keep up that good work. Thank you.
Mary Ellen's next.
And Mary Ellen?
Mary Ellen's going to go next.
Next.
I've been able to observe the process that they've been using with the data-driven instruction in the school culture. It's been absolutely phenomenal, very, very exciting. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to share information about the persistently lowest achieving schools, and I don't know that it's necessarily a great segue after hearing about such a wonderful component, but it does have something to do with persistently lowest achieving schools in that Our SINA designations, our DINA designations are all based on the work of No Child Left Behind and the laws with put No Child Left Behind. So I share this information with you this evening for a couple of reasons. First of all, because it is in some ways linked to the SINA work, and secondly, because it's timely. Very recently, we found out that we did have some schools that were designated as persistently lowest achieving schools in our district. So when we receive that designation, there are tiers 1, 2, and 3. It's kind of like SINA, where they have SINA 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So we do not have any schools in Tier 1. In Tier 2, we have a school that is in the bottom 5% of secondary schools, and that would be Roosevelt Middle School. And then Tier 3, we have 2 elementary schools that are SINA schools, and that would be Taylor Elementary and Johnson Elementary. So what does that mean for us? Is it related to SINA? Does it look like SINA? There's some things that are like SINA, and there's some things that are like DINA, but there's some things that are different as well. With SINA and DINA, that is very much tied to our Title I funds, and you need to, if you're not going to implement processes and turnaround strategies in those schools, then you lose your Title I funding. That is not the case with persistently lowest achieving schools. Both of them, SINA, DINA designations, and persistently lowest achieving, they are all based on one single assessment. It is the Iowa assessment is what we use, and if students are not making that adequate yearly progress with SINA and DINA, they are not seen as proficient. In this, basically, they're looking at those lowest in the state schools and those lowest percentages. So what happens when a state has the opportunity to either apply for funds that are called school improvement grants or not? The federal government, along with No Child Left Behind, provides funding to help support those schools to implement change processes. Our federal government is giving out $506 million over the next 3 years for those schools if they choose to, if the states chose a waiver, which Iowa did, and Iowa will receive $3 million in funding for schools that chose to develop and apply for a school improvement grant. That's the SIG acronym. So with that, it's also similar to SINA in that there are sanctions with SINA, like we have to do the school choice letters, and we have to look at those designations and provide supplemental educational services. Well, with the persistently lowest achieving schools, what it is, it's 4 models that they are saying that we could use to look at. And those 4 models I have listed. There's a transformation model, turnaround model, restart model, and a closure model. And closure is pretty self-explanatory. The restart model would be taking those schools and closing them down as they currently exist and having an outside entity come in and operate that school. The turnaround model is somewhat similar to what Val has talked about, although it's quite different in that in a turnaround model, you are looking at your principal and 50% of the staff being replaced in addition to implementing that turnaround model. And the DDI, data-driven instruction and school culture model that they're currently using in those SINA schools is a turnaround model, and it's research-based. The transformation model is similar to the turnaround model. There's less sanctions and replacement of staff with that model. So basically what we need to do, and we have a short timeline because the waiver that was just received by the state not very long ago, once we received notification, we began looking at those different models to determine what would best serve our district. Some of the models we don't think are an option for our school district, but we still want to keep our minds open and look at what we think is really best for students, what is best for the staff, what is best for the district in general. So what we are doing is we've got a team, administrative team, and we've included our Teachers Association as well, and what we're looking at is do any of these options, are they going to serve our students well? Is it something that we want to apply for these funds because we think it will enhance the learning that's currently going on and the teaching that's currently going on? As I think Kathleen mentioned, the most important thing in a classroom is the quality of the instruction and the instructional teacher in that classroom. So what we need to do is look at our options, and we actually have a conference call with the Department of Education tomorrow morning. Our team will be talking with them to look at, we are looking at the transformation model perhaps and learning more about the other, one of the other models to determine if that's what's best for our district. Part of us knows that we think the data-driven instruction and the school culture piece, and based on the work of the Leverage Leadership book that Val spoke about, and she has there at her table, we know that that's something we want to integrate into our teacher leadership system that we're putting in place. Is that enough, or could we further enhance that with the SIG application, with the school improvement grant? So I think those are things that we need to think about. Our options are open. We need to make our decision by March 14th. So we don't have a lot of time to do that, but we feel that we are giving it a lot of good thought and consideration. And I hope you will feel confident that based on the information that we're provided with, based on the federal guidelines and the state guidelines, that we will make that best decision for our students. So I'm happy to answer any questions about school improvement grants.
Questions or comments from the board? Alan?
Transformation one, I mean, we've been talking about that with Trace's work. Does that tie into the big ideas or the magnet schools? Does that qualify?
Absolutely, it could. If I look at, there's 4 different components to the transformation model, Alan, and one of them is institute comprehensive instructional reforms. Another one is increasing learning time and creating community-oriented schools, which I think that would fit well, and provide operational flexibility and sustained support. So, yes, I think so. I think these are broad categories that we can look at,
Okay.
and then that's for us to say, okay, with the other initiatives that we are currently working on, how does this all fit together?
Other questions or comments? Well, thank you for that report. All these designations and all these requirements and these short amount of timelines are very difficult to work with, and they're very constraining, so we appreciate your attention to that. We know that you'll make good recommendations, and hope that you engage those buildings in those conversations, which I'm sure you are. So thanks for that report, Mary Ellen, I appreciate it. Okay, next, we're going to have an approval of a resolution for a water main easement at Lincoln School. And Rob's here to answer any questions that anyone might have. This is not a voice vote. This is going to be a motion with a second. So first I'll see if anyone has any questions of Rob. And I think we discussed this at the last meeting, so I think we're all familiar. So Alan, so moved that we accept this. Is there a second? Keith, this is a roll call action?
It was Keith and Alan.
Alan? Mm-hmm.
Director Rosenthal. Director Anhalt.
Aye.
Director Witt.
Aye.
Director Rosenthal. I'm sorry, Director Westerkamp.
Chicago.
Yeah. Director Humbles. President Meisterling.
I'm sorry.
Yes, it's been a long
Aye.
day.
Okay, next is the approve the publication and scheduling of public hearing for fiscal 2013-2014 budget amendment. Steve is at our podium. Did you want to make any comments, Steve?
This is a very basic, very simple process. We are simply amending the current fiscal year's budget to avoid a negative mark on our audit that we don't want to have on our audit when it's complete at the end of the current fiscal year. Simple as that.
Any questions or comments, Ann?
Yeah, I'm just wondering why the amended amounts are so high compared to where you anticipate it will
It's a
end
great
up.
question. Thank you for asking it. If you look at that first column of numbers, you see the original publication. That was a year ago when we certified our budget. The far right-hand column are the numbers that you see in the current fiscal 14 budget. This is where we believe we're going to be. And you'll see these numbers reconcile into all of our fiscal 15 budget numbers in the next presentation to follow. That middle column is a 10% increase on every one of the numbers in the right-hand column, simply to avoid exceeding a published budget. It has nothing to do with the levy. It doesn't change a thing in terms of what we believe we're going to be spending in resources through the course of the current fiscal year.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, and next I'll leave it with you for a budget update.
Okay, very good. If we could cue up the presentation. I just want to say on this, for whatever it's worth, I think we all remember where we're at when there's something that historic happens in our lives. And having said that, you can sort of imagine the kinds of things that have happened historically over time. I will never forget last Monday morning when my phone rang, and it was Laurel Day, who was telling me that this district was successful in receiving the teacher leadership grant. I will never forget that moment. For whatever it's worth. At any rate, the teacher leadership grant is certainly wonderful news for our school system. It's certainly taken pressure off of the budget. Our work is still there for us to do, but it certainly has been a big great news for our school district. Again, this is a bit of a repeat from our last board meeting. We are really focusing tonight on the certified budget process. It's the revenue focus. Our line item budget is a work in progress, and it will come to you sometime in June when all the detail work that is before us ends. The next slide, this proposed certified budget highlights. In the board packet is a series of numbers all totaled together, lots of information, but preliminarily we have total revenues of $264 million plus and total preliminary district expenditures of $260 million plus. All the funds of the district are combined together for those numbers, not just the general fund. We believe that it is reflective of being good stewards of community tax dollars, that we bring to you tonight a no increase in our published levy rate. We certainly can lower that rate if the board wills to take action on that. But once published, we cannot increase that levy rate. It is exactly to the absolute fifth point on the decimal range, the exact same levy rate that we currently have for fiscal 14 budget. The fundamentals are pretty much the same. I'm going to add a little more information on our second bullet. We clearly must follow the legal certification requirements. But this issue of stabilizing the general fund spending authority reserves, there are three key points there. The first one is that we have a $6 million general fund budget adjustments that are assumed in the overall forecast, and that we want to make sure that we do pursue our new authorized revenue sources. And clearly, the teacher leadership grant is a solid authorized revenue source. And we will be still in need of reducing expenditures. I guess it's sort of my next slide that gives you some more detail. So I'm going to continue on here. Thank you for moving to the next slide. Regarding the $6 million of budget adjustments, the three key pieces are the teacher leadership and compensation piece. The next piece, as you've heard for the first time at our last board meeting, is this concept of equipment repair insurance. This, again, is a levy in the management fund that, by the way, is included in the forecast for the property tax levy rate being unchanged. There's an inclusion of $800,000. We'll move into that slide right now here. Just a moment. I'm going to sort of backtrack. If you let me control it, Mark, I think it'll be.
No batteries.
There you go. Oh, sorry, it wasn't turned on. Always been technically challenged, I'm sorry.
How'd you move the slide?
I apologize. Okay, so this is the equipment insurance breakdown program. Right now, we have a draft proposal from specialty underwriters out of Madison, Wisconsin. I say draft because we're still working on negotiating with them the best deal that we can get. There are a few players in this market. We thought we had another player, and as it turns out, we've confirmed with the Department of Education that they're not a player. So this program from specialty underwriters of Madison, Wisconsin has been universally accepted amongst many schools in the state of Iowa. They are aligned with Bob Jester with Jester Insurance Services, who is connected with the IASB insurance program, the Safety Group insurance program, and John Seafeld, also a long-tenured individual with Jester Insurance Services, has explained the value of this program to a great deal of my satisfaction. But on the 14th of April, my goal is to bring to you that refined proposal from SU out of Madison that gives us even a better deal than the one that you're seeing tonight. But these are numbers for purposes of explanation of what this means to the general fund. This is a $794,000 levy in the management fund to pay for the insurance premiums. This is a tort insurance product. And we will receive at a minimum $476,000 back as a general fund miscellaneous income revenue line that is related to all qualifying equipment that breaks down and needs repair. That $476,000 is a big part of our $6 million budget adjustment equation. That is another authorized revenue stream that I would be remiss if I didn't bring to your attention to put it out there and let you decide whether this is something that's in your interest as a board. So that is really the piece on the equipment breakdown insurance program.
Can we ask questions while you're, okay.
Absolutely.
So I've never heard of this before. Why is that?
That's a great question. That's a wonderful question. And frankly, the honest answer to that one is we have never had ourselves in a situation where our budget required us to look at everything that's possible to balance it going forward. And this was the time to bring this to the board's attention, to give it the consideration.
So is this an insurance piece that's been offered for years and years, or a couple of years?
Oh,
or-
it's been one that's probably started maybe 10 years ago. Very few school districts in Iowa were participating in it, but in the last 3 or 4 years, it's picking up steam. We've got Iowa City schools, we've got Des Moines schools, and many other of the UEN schools, as well as many other smaller schools in the state do participate with this program. In fact, we're going down to Iowa City next week. We're going to take our team down there and understand their model for extracting information to make sure that we get every dime we can once we do, if we do, proceed with this program. We want to make sure we yield as much money as we can. And it's all about setting up the process to make sure that anything that breaks down that qualifies is being reported and is being requested for reimbursement.
Ann?
Can you define equipment repair? As far as this, eligible equipment repair, what's that referring to?
Equipment repair is largely electronic equipment. Technology is a big player here. We have a lot of electronic technology equipment, computers, whiteboards, those kinds of things would be a very large part of things, would be a good example. And I don't have the exhaustive list of things, but our intents are to bring it to you, to give you that presentation.
It's like building equipment?
Building equipment.
The air handlers, pumps,
Not
transformers?
attached. Our HVAC systems are attached to part of the facility. They are not a part of this program.
Mowers? Snow blowers?
I can't tell you.
Buses,
I can't.
buses would be a big one, wouldn't it?
No.
No bus.
No vehicles.
We'll get that list, right?
We will.
Okay.
Absolutely. We will prepare for a presentation on
Okay,
this.
thank you.
Okay.
The big question always is, what's the risk? And the risk appears to be $300,000, because if you somehow were not able to capture all that money, you'd have this premium you'd pay in excess of $300,000. So that's really, if someone asked me, what's the risk of this program, I'd say if you didn't have enough items that qualified, you'd be out that money.
That's exactly right.
That's exactly right.
And we're working to increase that 60% to a higher number of guarantee. So.
But even then, it's the same principle.
And
That's what's at risk.
There's a benefit, though. The money comes back as a more flexible account, if you will. When the money comes back from the insurance, does it come back something?
This comes back as a help to the general fund budget and an expense to the management budget.
Exactly.
And I think I want to amplify for just a minute with President Meisterling's question. I think these programs are coming more common because we are all, as an institution, feeling education pressure on our general fund. And all of the superintendents, particularly the large districts, we're all looking for ways to protect our general fund and to maximize our general fund as it is targeted for instruction rather than targeted to keep pieces of equipment operating. And so it's a shift so that we can better target our money towards what we think our central mission is.
No, I appreciate that. I just didn't know it existed. Gary?
Steve, how did we come up with the number of a minimum of 476,007?
It's a 60% of premium, Gary. That's where the number comes from. 60% return guarantee minimum.
So if we don't have that many expenses, they would just still reimburse us?
There's a split. There is a split between SU and the school district that will also bring that information to you as well, and at our next meeting. So there is a formula for districts who don't achieve that 60%.
Is this somewhat like layman's terms buying extended warranties?
Well, that's a great question too, because we discovered a product that really was an extended warranty product, and I won't tell you the name of the insurance broker that provided that information and solicitation to my office, but we did find out through the State Insurance Commissioner's office and had that confirmed with the Department of Education that there are some programs that are calling themselves equipment breakdown that are really an extended warranty. You may believe in an extended warranty of good value, and it is legal for a district to buy that premium from the general fund, but buying a premium from the general fund as an extended warranty doesn't help us at all. It doesn't help us in terms of our budget gap. This is a program that's uniquely different that provides exactly what we're looking for in terms of budget assistance.
Ann?
Yep, just to clarify though, I mean, the equipment we're repairing is really part of instruction. I mean, if we're repairing computers and whiteboards that are in the classroom, that is an integral component of instruction, right? So I just to get clarification on what Dr. Benson said, I mean, we are just looking for another way to fund some instructional expenses. It's not really how to fund non-instructional expenses.
That's what this is all about. It's providing resources. It's finding resources to take the pressure off of the general fund reserves and to stabilize ourselves and bring us to a point of sustainability to provide the quality instructional program.
So when you bring this information back, will we get to see proposed budget both ways, either with this program and without this program?
We can show it to you both ways.
Because since the next time we see this is when we have to vote, I think it would be helpful so we know the implications of either option.
Absolutely.
Would be helpful. That'd be helpful to me.
We can do that both ways.
Okay. I would think just logically that the size of our district, we would benefit from this greatly.
This is the time to bring it to the board's attention. This is the time. And okay. And then finally, the third bullet here on this slide is targeted spending reductions. You saw in the article in the Gazette a repeat reference to our middle school streamlining process for instruction of delivery. This is probably the largest, in terms of spending reductions, the largest part of the overall budget adjustment package. There are a number of other things that we are working on and we'll continue to work on and refine as we get closer to June in the line item budget. So at any rate, you saw this slide before, the prediction for unspent balance, which is the gold or the orange bar. This is the spending authority reserves, is a stable flat line at 2% in fiscal 15 with the full implementation of a $6 million budget adjustment package. And the 8% fund balance increase for fiscal 15 is based upon the continuation of the cash reserve levy at the current level of $13.7 million. And again, all of this information is within the levy rate of staying the same with the current budget for fiscal 15.
Mary, I have another question.
Go ahead.
The way my mind thinks about how unspent balance works, I guess what I'm wondering is, it looked like initially the proposed expenses were less than the revenue, and so I would have thought that our unspent balance would have gone up a little bit.
That's a very good question, a very good observation. But remember, what you're seeing on those numbers is condensing all 9 funds together into one
okay.
number.
Right.
And you'll see that we will be bringing to your attention sometime probably in April, May, a consideration for a silo-funded debt of $7.5 million to continue our commitments and infrastructure in the silo fund. We have about a 3-year gap of resources that we need to level off with a debt instrument. That $7.5 million estimate is included in our budget 15 preliminary estimate. That is one of the reasons why you see the revenues exceeding the expenditures when you're taking all these 9 funds and combining them into one. That make sense?
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Okay.
Go ahead, Gary.
On the, back up to the slide, I think the one before.
This slide here?
Yes. When you have the assumption that targeted spending reduction without harm to instructional programs, that does not assume that there would be changes to instructional program.
I think that that's probably an answer that I would defer to Dr. Benson on, or any other instructional expert, and defer that question.
I'll answer that, Gary.
Okay.
One of the things that we've talked about is that there are some changes to what the day will look like, especially specifically to middle school. And we're looking at increasing that instructional day to 8 periods of day, not a longer day, but 8 instructional periods. And within that, every school will have a RTI time, a response to intervention, so that we can provide those targeted interventions or enrichments as needed. That will happen in every school as well next year. And then the second piece is that at the middle school level, we've had 2, one is a individual planning period and one is a common instructional collaborative time. We're going to reduce one of those and just go with the individual planning period. And we're working on providing that time for those teachers to do that collaboration in the morning. So we are looking at models of making that happen. It will not change the instructional day for students at all. Their time will stay the same. We also are adding into middle school a second literacy piece. We're going to have 2 literacy blocks within the day for each student. One would be focused on language arts, one will be focused on literacy. We're really going to focus on those reading skills. We have some deficits there, as well as our writing needs to be improving. So we're really trying to structure both those courses, and that work will get done this summer so that we can roll it out first thing in the fall.
Val, would it be valid to say then that we are not moving away from our middle school model to a junior high model?
That question came up at a meeting that we had a week or so ago. We asked the teachers, we actually asked the administrators to ask their staff, what kinds of things do you value in our middle school model? What kinds of things do we want to do? And some of the things they talked about were those relationships with students, that was very important to them. That's very important to us as well, so that we want to maintain that. We also know that collaboration is important. That's why we're looking at what kinds of things can we do prior to school and have the teachers be there even at 7:15, so we can do those collaborative PLC times a couple times a week, both in your content area as well as at your grade level. And that's where that collaboration about kids happens. And that's the other piece that they said was very important, is that they spend time right now talking about individual students and successes or struggles that are happening. And every teacher brings a different perspective to that. So we want to maintain that piece of it as well. So we're looking at those pieces to continue, as well as provide for our students instruction. And our data shows we need to do things a little differently.
Thank you. I just know, talking with staff, and I guess personally I lived through the transition from the junior high model to the middle school model, and I know the work and the study that went into making that move. That doesn't mean that times don't change or things don't move away, but talking with some former administrators and so on, as we move forward, they just hope that the planning and so on, if there are changes, that it's adequately done over a period of time, and we're not making changes just simply for budgetary reasons.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
Well, I think just I'll go to the final slide here to wrap up. We will be back before the board on the 14th of April. That is the day before the deadline of the 15th for certification of the budget. And we will bring before the board a presentation on the equipment breakdown insurance program for questions and answers, so you understand more about that. And we will wait and listen to the board's wishes in terms of the budget tax levy rate at that time. So that's really all I have.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comments or questions? So it's recommended that the board approve the publication of the fiscal year 2014-2015 budget to include a not-to-exceed levy rate of 15.47881 and notice of a public hearing to be held on April 10th, 2014.
That should be April 14th.
Yeah.
It was
I'm
listed
sorry.
wrong in the pertinent fact.
I apologize, April 14th, 2014. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Next, our board will be meeting in an exempt session to discuss strategy sessions for union and non-union employee groups. Board members, please take a look at your calendars, and we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.